What if I told you that you've been using the law of attraction your entire life? Whether knowing or unknowingly, you have been manifesting since the day you were born. Guys, welcome to Hypnovision Studios. I am your host, Nicholas. And yes, these earbuds right now are playing 40 hertz tones in my ears. So if you don't know what binaural beats is, it will help you to synchronize your brain through hemisynchronization, and it is quite relevant when it comes to the law of attraction, and I will explain this as we dive into this further. Now, you may have seen plenty of videos out there on YouTube and other platforms when it comes to the law of attraction. There are a lot of people selling hope, and there are a lot of people telling you to do things this way and that way, and everything will just happen. So what really is going on behind the scenes with the law of attraction? The philosophy says that your thoughts and emotions create your reality. And that happens with your beliefs, because there is a command line that happens: your thought, your belief, and then action. So our beliefs often come from an unconscious and unaware point of view that is deep down inside of us. These are things that are long-term patterns in our own life. And it is only once we become aware of what it is that we are attracting do we start to gain the conscious choice to make changes. So guys, when it comes to the law of attraction, I don't want to present this stuff as absolute, right? I don't want to be like every other video that says simply do this and everything will happen just as you visualized. Instead, I want to give you some of the definitions and understandings of different aspects of the law of attraction and share with you a few of my own life experiences. So if you're ready, make sure you smash that subscribe button and share this with a friend, and let's dive in. So when it comes to thoughts, right? Thoughts are considered to be electric and feelings are considered to be magnetic. So we have this understanding of what you focus on attracts. So what you focus on grows, and where you put your focus, your energy flows. So if we start to look at emotions as energy, we start to draw a very, very different picture of what's going on behind the scenes. What is going on in the imagination itself is creating our reality, because if there is not an attraction, then everything gets combobulated. And these things happen on an unconscious level. So there is something else I want to point out when it comes to this. If you're a fan of Nikola Tesla, then you understand the 369 method. This is also very closely tied with manifestation. The 369 method is also tied into numerology, as numbers are masters of the universe. They are absolute perfection. Numbers don't lie, but words can. So when it comes to the law of attraction, it is more than just saying that I desire this or I want to attract this into my life. We must, as Neville Goddard tells us, the feeling is secret, because the feeling is the magnet and the thoughts are electric. Now, why is that? Well, think about it in a very, very simplistic mindset. We have impulses firing through our brain. These little impulses are what? Electrical impulses. And they are magnetized or magnified by our feelings. So when people are telling you that I feel this or I feel that, they are also telling us what they are attracting in through their thought patterns. And if we are not able to break ourselves free from repeating the same pattern over and over, then we can be assured that we will continue to attract the same thing into our lives. That's very interesting. Once you start to become aware of these type things, like I'll give you an example for myself. Once I started to really become aware, I went through a phase of unknowingly starting to spot things I did not want. And unknowingly, I started to magnify these things. Well, through the law of attraction, I don't like this. Why did I attract this into my life? Well, to be honest, that was a lesson, right? Because there's a saying that opposites attract to learn lessons. Oftentimes, this is to trigger us into trauma responses or either into a healing phase. So sometimes we must go through a transformation and release certain things in order to have room to attract new things into our lives. That is very true. I have experienced this in my own life. And honestly, the more that you start to practice and become aware of the things that you need to let go of, the more you will start to see the things that you do want through your thoughts and your feelings. So the feelings, again, are magnetic and the thoughts are electric. Why do you think when someone writes, they are called an author? Thor, right? The god of thunder and lightning. Thor, author. So a lot of this, believe it or not, does come down to our own self-talk and our own image, our own self-image. In other words, how we are using our imagination to create our reality, which goes back to the philosophy that our beliefs are partly responsible for creating our reality. And here's something else interesting. I heard this recently and it's really stuck out in my head. The word responsible, if we start to break words apart and start to understand them or even switch them around, we start to see a very, very different picture. Responsible, able to respond, right? So part of the law of attraction is to really understand that what we are attracting into our life is based on our feelings, not so much about what we are thinking, especially when it comes to the outside world. So many people are so quick to give their opinion. But again, guys, if we break words down, the word opinion has the word pen inside of it. Now, if you know anything about words and definitions and root meanings, what does it mean to have a linchpin? That is a pinch point, right? A linchpin is a pivot point for something. And that's very interesting because oftentimes people will try to come and give you their opinion. It is an assumption. So here's something else. Neville Goddard often talks about the assumption, law of assumption. So to assume that you have something now is to inhabit the state of being, the vibration of the feeling. So we can say things all day long, but until we become the state of that being, we cannot attract it into our lives. This is where the opposites attract to learn lessons comes into play. This is where the manipulation of the mind trying to force and control the outside world through words alone without being in the proper alignment of this state of being. Now, what is that? What does the state of being mean anyways? So the state of being would be simply like this. I am angry. Now, anger will change how we are thinking. Why? Because of magnetism. The feelings, the emotions are magnetic and they are pulling in the electric thoughts, right? We are pulling it down and we are pulling it back up, or we are repelling through magnetism. It's very interesting when you start to look at things this way, because the whole idea and concept of state of being, I am love, I am joy, I am peace, I am fulfilled. When we use the word I am in our self-talk, we are describing our state of being. We are describing something that is in our atmosphere, right? Our atmosphere, in many ways, is like our inner life support. The human body itself is a self-contained, hermetically sealed system. It is separated from the outside world. what you are feeling inside of your body is being generated, right? What does a generator do? It generates energy. What is emotions? It is energy that has been put into motion. Well, what is the body doing when it takes action? It is taking action based off of a belief where the energy has been put into motion. E equals mc squared. Now that is fantastic, guys. So the state of being is really more about the actual state than it is the description, right? I feel X, Y, and Z. I think X, Y, and Z. I noticed this when I started going through this whole conscious awareness thing, that some people speak with their feelings and others speak with their thoughts. Some people say, I think this, while others say, I feel. I personally am one of those people who, once I started to understand, I often describe things with my feelings. I feel this way about X, Y, and Z, where other people around me would tell me what they are thinking. So if you start to peel back the layers of this and you understand, we're going to take this back to Nikola Tesla for a minute, that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Energy, frequency, and vibration. So if we look at it as emotions, happening on a frequent basis creates the vibe of the feeling. There's so many songs out there, guys. I think of the Beach Boys, Picking Up Good Vibrations. There are so many songs. We have been using the law of attraction, every human being on this planet, actually, for the longest time. It's always been there, and we mainly have been unconscious. Now, there are a lot of people out there that do know about the law of attraction, but again, if it's not staying in your dominant awareness, then it does slip to the background. So we are always using the law of attraction. The law of vibration is another one. I've done a video on this one. So the vibration itself is our constant, or it can become our resting state. In other words, our natural resting state is what we return to. Say we are going through our day-to-day and we get excited. We pop up to a higher state of vibration, and then we slowly start to return back to our resting or normal state of vibration. However, through practice and meditation and visualization, we can start to raise our resting baseline of vibration to a higher state. So we are less triggered by things on the outside world to us because our vibe is higher and higher. So that ceiling of the top of the vibration, which is, to me, is love, is the highest vibration of all. It is not just saying to someone, right, I love you. It is being love. I am in the state of love now, which means I love and I am putting out that vibration of love, and it is reflected back to me. So if I am not in a state of love and I'm trying to tell another person and prove to them that I love them, what am I doing? Am I being mentally manipulative? If I'm trying to prove to someone that I love them while simultaneously being in a low vibration, then I cannot appear in alignment to what it is that I am saying. I cannot attract that into my life unless I'm trying to force that into my life. Does that make sense? So you understand it like this. If you ever had a pet dog, for example, when you come home, the dog is so happy to see you. The dog is not telling you it loves you. It is showing you that it loves you. It is showing you that it missed you. And it is also showing you that it is excited to see you. So the dog, by being in the state, inhabiting the state, is showing you, right? Is manifesting through the dog's actions, because it doesn't just know or believe, it has inhabited that state of being. That's very interesting, guys. If you sit there and ponder on it for just a minute, when it comes to spells, right? When it comes to language itself, this takes it back to self-talk. A lot of people who don't really understand the English language and the root meanings of a lot of words, like myself in a previous, what's the best way to describe this? Before I became aware of a lot of this stuff, right? I had no idea. So you may feel a certain way towards a person, but you are not in the matching state. So sometimes we can try to force things, and then when it does not work out for us, guess what? Our vibration, our resting point goes down, right? Because we have tried to force something and it did not work. And then what happens? Through our self-talk, we start to play the victim. This is a mindset. This is also where depression comes from. I talked about this in my semen retention video, the difference in springing forward and depressing. It is also part of our nervous system because there is two sides, two halves to the nervous system. And our body is being stimulated, simulation, right? You're living in a simulation. The body is simulating the energy that is in alignment between the thoughts and emotions. Again, energy, guys. And how frequently, right? We can think about the rings of Saturn. How often or how many times are we having frequently thoughts? So the more that we think about something, the more we are starting to shift the energy in our body based upon the belief. Now, what goes beyond belief? Knowing. That is something that I came across once all this stuff started snapping into place and I started to have a lot of dreams. I started to stop questioning, do I believe in X, Y, and Z? Once I gained the inner knowing, right? To know thyself, and man shall know everything. Once you know the creator on the inside that is creating the image, your self-image, then you know beyond a shadow, get it? Beyond a shadow of a doubt. I've heard this saying so many times in my life, and for the first time, it makes such a different meaning to know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, when we look at Carl Jung's teachings, the shadow self, right? To know beyond a shadow of a doubt, the shadow self, that which is hidden within us, just like the imagination contains the word magi, which is magnetism, which is to magnify, right? So the law of attraction also has a lot to do with attention. They are closely tied to each other. So guys, if you're someone or know someone who often says or claims they have ADHD, this is really important to try to understand because it is something that you can reverse. You're not stuck with having ADHD your entire life. You can, through practice of meditation and visualization and starting to understand your own emotional feelings inside of your body, break yourself free from having one of those ping pong minds where you're not able to really focus on something, right? As someone myself who had previously, when I was younger, was diagnosed with ADD at the time, I understand what it is like to have problems regulating my emotions, right? If you can't regulate your emotions, then you can't magnetically pull the thoughts and hold the attention in place. Wow. Think about that, guys. So if you think about something like the Masonic towers, right? You have two towers on each side. Let's say that my face is the magnet. The towers are way up here. This magnet is pulling everything in like a V, right? Right down to the center, like a V. You will often see this symbol right here, guys. I just drew it on a piece of paper. So if you draw a circle around that and you know the Nikola Tesla symbol, right, for 3, 6, and 9, then there it is. right, is also the voice box of being able to speak and create the resonant vibration, but that also happens with the feeling. When we are in this state, our voice, our tone changes. That is another indication of what somebody on the outside of you, if you are attuned and listening to the tone of their voice, you can tell more than what they are saying. If someone gets nervous, guess what? They constrict their throat and their voice and pitch changes. If someone is angry, oftentimes they will say things they don't mean. They will say mean and hurtful things, and even at people that has nothing to do with why they're even angry in the first place. That is called projection. We are projecting out the feeling, and we are trying to hide our state of being by projecting it onto a thing or a person. So that goes back to self-talk again, guys. What we think through our self-image, I think I am this, I know I am that, I believe I am this, it all affects the actions that we take, which create our reality. So, guys, a lot of people will just simply say, do this and the law of attraction works for you. Well, yes, there's many times that it does work and it is unconscious and we don't even understand like how it happened. Say you may think of a person, then they call you. Or there's times where you really do try to make something happen and then it don't. And that's because you are thinking about it, but you don't feel like you deserve it. So how can you attract what you feel you don't deserve? Another thing that happens when it comes to the self-talk is we can self-sabotage. Now, when you understand through the Carl Jung teachings the different archetypes, right? So the self-sabotaging would say, oh, I knew this was going to happen. Nothing works in my favor. Everything turns to crap. That is a form of self-sabotage. And we often can pick these things up from being around other people and in these environments. I talked about this a few months ago when it came to shifting and influencing the environment that you were in. Now, if you are someone who is really a positive person, you may not always appear to others as being positive if they are negative. Some people are what you call toxic positive. These are people that are really not in the feeling, the emotion of positive, but they want to portray a positive outlook. So if you don't feel good about yourself, you can call that fake it till you make it. But until the emotion and feeling aligns with that action that you are trying to portray, it will still come off as toxic. It will come off as toxic positivity. And that is probably way worse than someone who is just simply saying, hey, I'm not really a good person, because you can spot those people from 10 miles away. And the law of attraction will always, no matter if it's good or bad, you will attract what you are. And we see the world as we are, not as it is. So we are always filtering through our emotions and attracting in through the thoughts, right? Everything has to enter the mind first before it goes down into the thoughts, the subconscious. So you'll see a lot of teachers like Tony Robertson, Simon, I can't say his last name. Simon Sinek. They talk about the why factor, right? Because if you've ever heard of saying X marks the spot, but we don't understand why. Why do we do the things we do? Well, that's because it's all we've ever known, and we've repeated the pattern until it becomes a habit. So it becomes habitual to stay in our natural state of being. So if our natural state of being is a lower vibration, then we can jump up to a high vibe, but we can't maintain that because we don't have the energy stores, right? So that's another thing that through celibacy and semen retention, that taught me a lot when it came to energy itself. Because at the end of the day, we have to be responsible. Again, responsible, able to respond. We cannot control people on the outside of us, but we can control our response. Another one, accountable, able to account. Why? Because I am consciously aware of what it is that I am creating with my imagination. And because I am consciously aware, I have the memory to recall and take account for my actions. Wow, guys. And when our emotions and our thoughts are in alignment, it is unnatural for us to do bad or do evil or do other people wrong if we are in alignment with ourselves in a positive way. We simply have no need to manipulate another person. We have no need to elicit, right, through manipulation, things from other people. So to elicit would be to manipulate a person to get what you want from them. And sometimes this comes through gossip. Sometimes this comes through trying to make another person look bad to make yourself look good in order to elicit the response that you want. But this doesn't have a long-term longevity to it. What does is being in alignment with yourself. So there are a lot of things that really have, that go into the background of this, right? I was saying for months last year, active imagination. I kept repeating it to myself to remember actively and consciously what it is through my imagination that I am imagining. And there were times where I would say to myself, this environment does not feel like things are working together. Everything is hard, problematic. There are things that just do not jive. It's like trying to put a puzzle together with pieces from 100 different puzzles that simply don't go together. And we are trying to force a round peg through a square hole. Why? And that's because the alignment of thoughts and emotions are all over the place. So there is no cohesion for things to work together, to be attracted to each other and work in cohesion. I asked myself many times, did I imagine this? Or am I just noticing things that I never saw before? So that goes back to when you start to become aware of things that you were not aware of before from the unconscious place, then you start to have the conscious choice to change your response. So in times like that, I could get upset, be triggered by somebody on the outside of me, and respond in kind. Get it? Respond in kind. The energy is reciprocated. But if I choose not to match and magnify that energy, then guess what? The individual on the outside is still holding that energy while you yourself have chose not to respond and maintain your own inner life support. The nervous system, guys, is very important. And I learned through a nervous system reset, right? A lot of this stuff happens through meditation and breath work, because when we breathe, we are interjecting the thoughts of the mind. We are causing interruption between what is being pulled in through our feelings, right? We are becoming present in the moment. And there's so many things to be grateful for once you learn to become present. A lot of times when we are unconscious of what it is we are imagining, what it is that is constantly repeating in our mind, we can disassociate from the present and go emotionally live in the past. That is when we start to ruminate and think about things of the past. That is when we start to regret things of the past. When we start to just constantly replay events that have already happened over and over and over. Then we start to lower our vibration because why? We feel guilty. We feel bad. We miss people that we should have been more grateful for having them in our lives and show more appreciation in the present moments when they were there, but we didn't. So now we feel regretful. And when we are in a guilty conscious, it is hard to be in a higher conscious. It is hard to be in what is known as the Christ conscious. And I say that with parentheses because some people don't believe that the Christ conscious is real. But I can assure you through my own experience, and I'm pretty sure there are those out there that do know and understand that the Christ conscious is real. Why? Because it is the heart. As Jesus himself said, I am the way. I am. It is the I am. The I am is the way. The heart chakra is green, just like the color behind me. The heart chakra is the six-pointed star, which symbolically has many meanings, but one of the meanings is the integrated consciousness. As above, so below. So we understand the higher and lower conscious as the what we are consciously aware of, and then the subconscious, what we are unconsciously attracting into our lives. So when we start to move to the middle, we integrate both aspects of the conscious itself, light and dark, right and left, up and down. It's all opposite of each other, but there's an equal amount of both. So we cannot enter into the Christ conscious if we are attached to a guilty conscious. There's a saying that some people have a gluttony for punishment. I myself have, through observation, noticed this with some people that continuously create their own problems and then complain about the problem they created. I know this because there are at different points in my own life where I know that I did that, and I did it unconsciously. Once I was aware and I look back through my journaling and different life events, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That was my fault. I did that, and I have to be accountable for it. So again, I can't live and take what happened in the past and keep it with me and attach myself to it like a ball and chain, like baggage, and say that for the rest of my life, I have to hold on to this because I am attaching myself and not allowing myself consciously to ascend to a higher vibration, a higher state of being. Some people call it the higher self. So the Father is oftentimes the way through heaven, right? The Father is the mind, the mental, the mentality of self, which is the image, the self-image. So again, guys, self-talk has a lot to do with this. The way we think about ourselves is closely tied to our feelings. And the other thing is attention, right? So again, guys, ADHD, attention deficit hyper, I forgot the last letter acronym. So you know where I'm going with this, right? So attention is the steering wheel of attraction. And when we use our attention, we are attending or pre-attending an event. And if we have not ever learned to visualize or meditate or to think through something before it happens, then we are walking blindly into something, and we can be reactive before we even understand what it is we are reacting to. Those are the unconscious parts of ourselves. When we allow something of an old pattern to slip out of us and wreak havoc and cause ripples into the environment, when we did not think before we opened our mouths and spoke something into existence. So it's very interesting when you think about things like this, guys, to pre-attend, right? We are attending an event before it happens. A lot of people who are in the entertainment business or performers understand this. Even people that do sports who practice, whether it's basketball, baseball, soccer, any other kind of sport, oftentimes people will see themselves at the game before the game even happens. Some of the best people, the most successful people, will spend a lot of time visualizing the game before it happens. They go through the playbook. And there was actually a study done, and I forget the name of the study. If I find it, I will put it in post-editing, where they had three groups of people. One group practiced with a basketball, making shots. The other group only sat around and visualized making the shots, while the third group did nothing. I think it was for either a week or two. And then after that time had expired, they all came back together and they did practice with making shots with the basketball. The group that did not practice, did not do anything, obviously did the worst. But surprisingly, the group that visualized almost tied neck and neck to the group that physically practiced shooting the ball. Because it is the art of seeing yourself doing it, seeing yourself becoming it, and feeling it inside of your body. I use this a lot when I go and DJ at different events. And there was a time, guys, before I even realized what it was, right? It's just something that I was doing for a long time in my life. So that's why I say we've been using the law of attraction and we don't even know we're doing it. So a lot of times it is very true that we are attracting things into our life and we are consciously unaware and we have no idea why things can work out the way they do. So affirmations is something that can help you fix your self-talk, but you also have to work on changing your feeling, changing your natural state of being. So the I am, right? I am is such a powerful phrase to speak over yourself. I am confident. I am magnetic. I am attractive. And once we start to say this, we start to believe, right? So belief is part of the equation for creating reality. So if we say this to ourselves, we can say it 1,000 times, but until we start to feel it, we don't believe it. So guys, self-image and belief, right? Once we go beyond belief, we know we are no longer questioning or doubting. We are no longer indecisive. We have magnetized our thoughts into a alignment with our feelings because we are no longer questioning a belief. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt. So there's a little bit of Carl Jung here, Neville Goddard. There is also a little bit of Bob Proctor in this, Earl Nightingale. There are so many wonderful people out there that teach this stuff. And there are some people that do also teach it, but they don't really show you the behind the scenes of what's really going on because it is a lot of the imagination, a lot of visualization, and allowing yourself to feel these things. So sometimes our childhood does have a lot to do with this. Things that we experience in our childhood, there are many different variants of reasons that we grow up the way we do, and it's not always our parents' fault. Sometimes it is stuff that is passed down through generations and generations. Sometimes it is the environments that we find ourselves attracted to. So when we don't have a strong belief about ourselves, then we can become persuaded by the outside world. Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns. Yes, some of the greatest speakers out there will repeat things. Why? They'll do it 3 times because the subconscious is always recording for your own memory recall. Everything will always work out in your favor once you convince your belief system into a knowing. Those actions will change. So a lot of times people want to portray or want to appear a certain way, but you cannot appear to others a state of being that you are not in, no matter how many times you say it. And that is something that is important for everyone out there who wants to really understand how the law of attraction works on a real basis. Because you can say it, but if you don't feel it, there is no alignment. and you can't attract something into your life that way. You can only try to enforce it. Enforcer, right? So when it comes to the male and female paradigm, when it comes to masculine and feminine, there are some women who are more in a masculine energy. Why? Because they are in a low vibrational state, but they are trying to force and control things mentally. They are not able to attract something into their life because they are not in the proper state of being, or they do not have it because they have not healed or become aware of it within themselves or integrated it within themselves. So guys, if you're new to my channel, you probably haven't seen some of my previous content. Other people have been watching my content for a while. I spoke about this recently. My birth chart, when you look at the energy dynamics of my birth chart, I am like 60-something% feminine on the scale, and I'm totally a dude, and I am straight as a arrow. But I am very creative, and I have a lot of imaginative ideas, and I have always been that way. But I'm also a Pisces moon, and I'm very sensitive to people around me. I am very sensitive because, again, like I said earlier in the video, I often speak from my feelings. When someone says something to me or says, "What do you think about this?" I respond with, "I feel X, Y, and Z." And it was not until I became aware I was doing it that I started to understand how this was working in my own life. And that is the purpose of my video for you guys, is to not just sell you the idea of the law of attraction, but to help you to understand the law of attraction. Neville Goddard does often say to assume that you have it now. And I just got hit with chills just then because I know it's true. When you assume, you are telling yourself, as Neville says, to deny your five senses, right? To deny your senses means you are not conforming to the outside world. You are doing this from the inside out. Inside out. And I'll say it a third time, inside out. We breathe in the air. We allow ourselves to feel it. We magnetize and pull the thoughts down, and then we release it back out, and it is reflected back to us. So it is always working. The imagination is the unseen force, just like magnets. You cannot see what is pulling these together, but you know it's there. I dropped it. I was hoping it was strong enough to pull it together mid-air, but yes. So it is always there. We cannot see this force, but we know it. We know it's there. When we attract something of the opposite, there is a reason. Because there is a mismatched emotion. And the only way to understand the feeling of another person is through what? Communication. Union is the word that is hidden inside of communication. So when you look at different religions and you look at different words and the root meanings of them, communion, communication, union, unified. So that is to bring something into an agreement or alignment through communication, verbal or written, or to just gain an understanding. And that is very interesting. The law of attraction doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to how you attend and how you mentally show up. Guys, I am very grateful for all of you, and I'm very happy to be sitting here today, honestly. This channel and everything that I've experienced since I've started to produce content for YouTube has been a very huge blessing for me. It has been something that has caused a lot of growth in my own life. And I'm so happy and so grateful for every one of you out there. That is another thing. I picked this up from Bob Proctor. I am so happy and grateful. And I repeat this to myself until I feel happy, right? So in my own affirmations, it is not just to say, I am so happy and grateful. I am so happy and grateful. It is to also include, I am so happy and grateful. I feel the emotions of happiness. Look at that, guys. I feel the emotions of happiness because I am happy and grateful. I feel emotions of happiness. I am joy, love, peace. I inhabit the state of these feelings. No matter what thoughts are coming through my mind, if I am in these states of being, then I know without a shadow of doubt. Now that, guys, is simply magic because it is imagination, it is energy, it is frequency, and it is how we create the reality we experience. There's another thing that will help you, and that is to write these to yourselves and say them in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you. I am so happy and grateful to finally know and understand how to shift my emotions, how to pull myself up, right? Because the mind is also, as law one of the Hermetics, yet law one of the Hermetics, all is mental. The universe is all, it is the mind. So again, those little pulses that are shooting around in our brain are electrical, and our feelings are magnetic. So speak it into existence. We do that with our voice. We create the sound. We say that we desire something, and then we release the control and allow it to happen because I am so happy and grateful. I feel the emotions of happiness and gratitude. I am so happy and grateful. I feel the emotions of gratitude. Guys, it works every time. I mean, I am covered in goosebumps right now. I don't have to prove to you anything because you can see that I know. I don't have to even try to make myself believe because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. So guys, make sure you drop some comments down below and let me know what you think and how you feel about it. And maybe I'll address that in a future video. And I would love to hear from you all. I'm so happy and grateful for every one of you out there. And I feel grateful for each and every one of you. And I will see you on the next one.